Hashi won't remember that another Scream actor beat Jack Quaid to Star Trek by 6 months. Jack Quaid's rise to genre superstardom feels almost inevitable now. Between The Boys, Star Trek, Lower Decks, and Scream, he's become one of Hollywood's most recognizable millennial faces in sci-fi and horror. His turn as the voice of Brad Boimler in Lower Decks, the most neurotic, well-meaning, and hilariously unlucky ensign in Star Trek history, cemented him as a fan favorite in the franchise. But what most people don't remember is that another Scream alum quietly beat Quaid to Star Trek by half a year. It's a connection that flew under the radar, hidden behind prosthetics, layers of Klingon armor, and a sea of Paramount Plus content. Yet, this forgotten link between Scream and Star Trek reveals how interconnected modern genre storytelling has become, and how Star Trek continues to attract a generation of horror-savvy actors who grew up watching both franchises. The overlooked star, Melissa Barrera's Star Trek cameo. Before Jack Quaid's animated debut in Star Trek, Lower Decks premiered in August 2020. Another Scream actor had already boarded a Federation starship. 6 months earlier, Scream 2022 and Scream VI lead Melissa Barrera appeared in Star Trek short treks, specifically the 2019 to 2020 mini-episode, The Escape Artist. Yes, that's right. Long before Barrera became the face of a revived Scream franchise, she quietly joined the Star Trek universe. The connection is so obscure that even diehard Trekkies often overlook it, partly because short treks aired between major Star Trek shows and featured wildly different tones and stories. In The Escape Artist, Barrera plays one of the unfortunate victims of Harry Mudd Rain Wilson, the con man first introduced in Star Trek, the original series, and later revived for Star Trek Discovery. The short sees Mudd caught by a bounty hunter, again, and desperately trying to talk his way out of trouble. Barrera appears in one of the flashback sequences as one of Mudd's many duped companions, caught in his web of deception. It's a brief appearance, but it marks her as one of the first Scream cast members to make the jump to Star Trek. The irony? Fans wouldn't connect the dots until years later, when Barrera's fame skyrocketed after Scream V's release in 2022. By then, Jack Quaid's Boimler had already become a full-blown Star Trek icon, making it easy to forget that Barrera technically got there first. Jack Quaid's Starfleet Ascent. When Star Trek Lower Decks premiered in August 2020, Jack Quaid's performance immediately stood out. His Boimler was the perfect embodiment of the modern Trek fan, overzealous, awkward, and endlessly optimistic in the face of cosmic chaos. While other Star Trek series focused on captains and command crews, Lower Decks looked at the support staff, the unsung junior officers doing the grunt work that keeps the starships running. Boimler, with his wide-eyed ambition to someday become a captain, became the show's emotional and comedic core. By the time Quaid crossed over into live action in Star Trek Strange New World Season 2, Those Old Scientists, the fandom had fully embraced him. The episode, which merged animation with live action, allowed Quaid and co-star Tawny Newsome-Mariner to literally step into the world of Captain Pike. It was a meta delight for fans, and proof that Star Trek had found its next great ambassador. Yet, 6 months before Boimler ever took his first holodeck misstep, Barrera had already checked into the Star Trek universe quietly and without fanfare. 2 Scream stars, 2 very different Star Trek roles. The juxtaposition of Barrera and Quaid's Star Trek roles says a lot about both actors' careers and the eras of Trek they joined. Barrera's appearance in short treks represented the transitional phase of the franchise, the experimental period following Star Trek Discovery's debut, when CBS, now Paramount, was testing how far it could stretch the brand. The shorts were quirky, low budget, and sometimes weirdly dark, more akin to Black Mirror than The Next Generation. In contrast, Quaid's Lower Decks era marked a confident stride into meta-comedy and serialized satire. It spoke to a generation raised on memes, convention panels, and internet fandoms. His Boimler wasn't just a Starfleet ensign. He was a Trek fan living his dream. Both Barrera and Quaid represent Star Trek's ability to evolve with the times, embracing new tones and talent while maintaining the optimistic heart of Gene Roddenberry's vision. But it's fascinating that their shared screen heritage connects two very different moments in the franchise's modern history. The genre connection. Scream and Star Trek's shared DNA. On paper, Scream and Star Trek couldn't be more different. One's a self-aware horror series about masked killers and meta-commentary. The other's a utopian sci-fi saga about exploring strange new worlds. Yet, they share a surprising amount of thematic DNA. Both franchises are about confronting fear, whether it's the fear of death in Scream or the fear of the unknown in Star Trek. Both use ensemble casts, rely on loyal fandoms, and reinvent themselves every decade to stay relevant. And both have become training grounds for rising stars who eventually define their genres. Melissa Barrera brought emotional vulnerability and modern anxiety to Scream, grounding its meta-horror chaos in a character-driven performance. Jack Quaid, similarly, brought empathy and awkward humanity to Boimler, an ordinary guy trying to live up to impossible standards in a galaxy of legends. In a way, both characters are survivors, navigating universes where chaos reigns and the only way out is through wit, courage, and heart. Why fans forgot about Barrera's Star Trek appearance? Part of the reason Barrera's Star Trek credit faded into obscurity is timing. When The Escape Artist dropped in January 2019 in some markets early 2020, Barrera was best known for her roles in Vita and In the Heights. Her Scream fame was still years away. By contrast, Lower Decks arrived right as The Boys made Quaid a household name. The timing and the crossover between the fandoms, sci-fi, comic book, and animation, meant Boimler immediately resonated with viewers. Another factor is visibility. Barrera's Short Trek's appearance is quick and buried in a web of side stories. Lower Decks, on the other hand, has 4 full seasons and counting, plus crossovers, interviews, and convention panels. Quaid's association with Star Trek became a core part of his career identity. Barrera's was a fun trivia footnote. Still, there's a strange satisfaction in realizing that one of the modern queens of horror stealthily joined Star Trek before one of its most beloved modern comedy stars did. It's a reminder that Star Trek's galaxy is far bigger and more interconnected than most fans realize. Star Trek's love affair with horror actors. It's no accident that Star Trek keeps attracting actors from the horror genre. The two worlds have always overlapped. The original series thrived on eerie, gothic episodes that flirted with horror tropes, Catspaw, The Man Trap. The next generation explored psychological terror through the Borg, and Discovery and Strange New Worlds have fully embraced cinematic horror in select episodes. Actors like Melissa Barrera, Jack Quaid, and even Scream's legacy players like Neve Campbell or David Arquette share that blend of vulnerability and resilience that Star Trek loves. Horror trains actors to react authentically to impossible scenarios, exactly what's needed when facing aliens, anomalies, or malfunctioning warp cores. That crossover energy explains why the franchises often attract similar talent pools. Both demand sincerity and absurdity. Whether you're running from